Energy, the driving force of everything in the universe, from the Big Bang to the formation of galaxies and planets, to life and the survival of civilizations. We all need energy to cook our food, to keep us warm, to power our machines, for technology, to keep us healthy, and to help us see at night. The IEA, International Energy Agency, is an organization which works to ensure reliable, affordable, and clean energy. A report done by the IEA shows that most of the world's power comes from oil and coal. Most of Australia's energy comes from coal. The coal is considered to be a dirty resource. It pollutes the air, and pollutes the rivers and the soil around it, harming the ecosystem. I did my research report on the differences between thorium and uranium energy, and whether thorium energy was a safer nuclear energy than uranium was. Okay, so I was interested in studying this because I have a friend who loves this source of energy, thorium. She thinks it's the answer to all of the world's energy solutions, and I just wanted to get an opinion about it myself. So at first, I must say, from just going off the knowledge that she says, I thought this was a really good idea, but that's why I researched it. So another source of energy is nuclear energy. And why not nuclear energy? At the moment, most of the world's nuclear energy comes from uranium. Uranium is a vast resource, and it produces hardly any greenhouse gases. It's a lot cleaner than coal or oil, and it's a lot more efficient too. When I spoke with other people, I mean, like, when you think about nuclear energy, it doesn't really have a good name for itself, especially after events like Chernobyl and Fukushima and other areas like that, where a nuclear reactor has actually happened, and things exploded and just sent radiation all over the place, created cities that have become totally abandoned for years and years and years, and then you've created weird associations with nuclear radiation, like mutation in people's limbs and heads, and just horrible, horrible things. What I didn't expect, though, was from a mini survey that I produced, just pretty much with a circle of friends about nuclear energy, and I talked to them about whether Australia should use nuclear energy or not. A surprisingly large amount of them said that they would be happy if we decide to use nuclear energy. Nuclear weapons. I mean, uranium reactors create a byproduct called plutonium. Plutonium can be used to create warheads and nuclear bomb, atom bomb. But what if there was an alternative nuclear fuel that was safer, cheaper, more reliable, and better for the environment? Well, there is. There's thorium. Thorium is a radioactive element that occurs naturally in virtually all rock, soil, and water. It was founded by a Swedish chemist called Jöns Jacob Brasilas, I think that's how you say his name, to which he named the element after Thor, the god of thunder, because it was so energetic, electrified, or I don't know. He named it probably because of one of those reasons. Thorium is supposed to be so potent that you can hold a lifetime of energy in your hand. Say that you could power the world with about 6,600 tons of thorium. We have more than enough to power a country for the next 1,000 years. When I got up to about this part of my research, I started thinking, like, yeah, that's great. We have heaps of thorium, and thorium is supposed to be a brilliant energy source. So why is it safer, and why aren't we using it? Well, let's talk about why it's safer first. So, water pressured reactor, it's what uranium uses. The reactor core needs to be pressurized to be controlled. A constant flow of water cools this reactor down, and it's why they're always positioned next to big bodies of water. The reactor is in a containment structure. This containment structure is really heavy. It's about 20 inches thick, and it's concrete. The structure is breached through a meltdown or an earthquake or something. It actually sends off the emissions and fumes out into the air, and radiation spreads everywhere. Thorium is a fertile material. You need a fissile material such as uranium-235 or plutonium-239 to start the reaction. So it isn't totally without uranium or plutonium. There is uranium and plutonium in an actual thorium reactor. Now, a thorium reactor is a liquid fluoride thorium reactor. This is a thermal breeder reactor which uses the thorium fuel cycle in a fluoride-based molten liquid. And this liquid can achieve high operating temperatures at atmospheric pressures. A breeder reactor is a nuclear reactor capable of generating more fissile material than it consumes. So it takes fertile elements like thorium-232 and turns them into fissile elements like uranium-233, and then reuses them for energy. So a nuclear meltdown is when the nuclear reactor core is damaged from overheating. But because the liquid fluoride thorium reactor runs at a normal atmospheric pressure, containment of the heat is easy. There is no atmospheric pressure to maintain for the reactor to be stable. An emergency reactor sealed with a freeze plug. This plug is created from cold gas that deliberately freezes the pipe. Once the reactor goes offline, there is no electricity for the cold gas to be pumped, which results in the plug melting, and then the liquid fuel drains into the emergency containment tank. Now, because the breeder reactor, the thorium reactor, requires less input, less thorium to get the same result as the uranium reactor would, there's less output. The good thing about thorium in a liquid fluoride thorium reactor is that it decays a lot quicker than uranium does. So instead of tens of thousands of years, it only really needs about 300 to 500 years to lose its value. So obviously thorium has a lot of pros. But what are the negatives? Well, it needs to be transported, so you're risking dangerous material, radioactive material, through possibly populated areas. That needs to be mined, and mining, like pretty much every single time, damages the environment and the ecosystem. It's very hard to regulate. There's a lot of high startup costs too with thorium. Something like $10 billion just to create the actual reactor core and get everything going. And a really high standard needs to be in place at all times. So you can't really have any stuff-ups. It has to be regulated really well, and the margin for human error is very, very slim. Although when we look at other options like solar, wind, tidal energy, other renewable options, I mean, these sources don't need to be mined. Their health hazards are minimal or almost non-existent. They're cleaner. Wind turbines, for example, can be placed in water-freeing land use. They can be placed in between farms for agriculture. Conclusion, I think thorium is a lot better than uranium for nuclear power, and I think we're heading in the right direction for nuclear fuels if we start to keep researching thorium or fusion power that way. But I think that Australia should redirect its powers into looking at renewable energy. I think that's a lot safer, it's a lot cleaner, and there are still a lot more technological advancements that we can do in that area to provide energy for us and possibly for the world.